What are you not going to pay attention to today? Continuing the series on starting your year on a good start with kindness for yourself and going after your intentions. So we've seen the importance of rest and how to do it effectively to be in a good state. We've seen what you can do in order to set sustainable goals. And thanks to a few of the principles of permaculture, and then we made sure to define success with flexibility. So today we are moving on, and for that, we need to align our attention with our intention. Why and how? Stay tuned. Bonjour, life sparklers. It's Claire from Integrally Alive, unapologetic freedom for unconventional humans with practical body, mind, wisdom, and tools to create a life feeling alive from the inside out. And show notes on integrallyalive.com. So this summer, I lived in Rome, Italy, and I couldn't leave Rome without visiting the Sixtine Chapel, of course. So as you might imagine, or as you know, if you've been there, it's a seriously popular attraction. And when I say popular, I mean it. So to visit it, you first go through a whole museum that is so packed in itself with antique goodness that you could spend days admiring all of it just for that part. But then you get to the Sixtine Chapels. And there were a fair amount of visitors, but I could mostly look at the art undisturbed and take as much time as I wanted until I got to the Sixtine Chapels. There, suddenly, it all changes. It is as packed at the metro in Paris at peak hours, and there are even people telling you where to go and where not to go, and they pack everyone in the center of the room. Some trying to exit. Oh la la. Some trying to take pictures, though it's totally forbidden. Some trying to watch the paintings, the kids moving around. And after a few minutes of this circus, I was paying more attention to finding a good posture that could actually let me admire the paintings than actually looking at the paintings. And as you know, most of it is on the ceilings. So you have to look up. It doesn't make it easy or comfortable to look at it for an extended time. So I had to pause at that moment, breathe, and remember my intention is not managing myself around people. My intention is seeing the painting. And I refocused my attention accordingly. Does that feel familiar to you? I mean, maybe not visiting the Sixtine Chapel, but we begin with an intention, then things pop up like they do. And a few minutes, days, months into it, we realize that we are spending our precious attention on things that are not priority. Oh la la, priority. I would get it. Priority, easy. Anyway, it sounds familiar to you. Welcome to being human. So last week, I talked about, oh no, that wasn't actually last week. That was in a podcast last year, must be around November. I talked about selective attention, and you can go back to that episode for a refresh. I will put it in the show notes. Basically, we are only able to retain a small amount of attention in our brain, of information in our brain, in our working memory. And there's a famous paper from back then in Psychological Review by George Miller that says that the magic number that we can process is 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of attention. Actually, more recent studies have kind of, gone further, and they have estimated that the processing capacity of the brain, of the conscious mind, is at 120 bits per second. And if you don't know what I mean, what it means, welcome, me neither. But it means that it's limited. Anything that goes over that is not registered, consciously at least. So our consciousness has a bandwidth at the window, like your internet connection. Whatever information that overloads it at one time doesn't get in our conscious attention. And by the way, these kind of studies kind of like startles me and fascinates me in a way. And if you want more numbers, I put a link in the show notes to an article where you will be able to like go in a number vortex if you want. But what it means, because of this limited bandwidth, we have attentional filter, which is mostly unconscious, but that we can influence consciously to automatically ignore the information that's not important at that moment. And it works for your dog too, by the way. For example, when you're calling your dog for, and he's smelling something and he just ignores you, he's not just ignoring you, he's actually not consciously hearing you because he's so focused on the smell. So his attention filters that out. Boring human, 0. Yummy, smelly food, 1. So that's why. So, okay, our attention is limited. What about the link with intention now? So attention happens in the present, where we are overloaded with information, which if you don't live in a cave, it happens to do to you daily today, and we make a constant choice towards what we pay attention to. Intention is linked to the future. We imagine something that we want to get to. Ideally, then we use our intention like a compass to direct our attention to things that are important to create that in the present. And in the past episodes, we're all about how to do that in a sustainable and efficient way. So go back if you missed them. And we have mainly 3 ways of getting stuck in that process between intention in the future, attention in the now, and what do I do? So the first is the daydreaming limbo. Then we have the tunnel vision oriented action, which might remind you something that was tunnel vision, something I explained in the last episode last week. And then fake efficiency, or the trap of productivity. So let's begin by the daydreaming limbo. When we take intention in our present, we are daydreaming. Intention is in the future. So it can be great sometimes, as an exploration of this intention to bring it here, some say visualizing, and you can define it more clearly and really know what you want, what it would be like exactly in your emotions, in your body, etc. But there are ways of doing this that are effective, and like always, if you're interested, I'll do an episode on that, just tell me. And there are ways to just get lost in dreamland limbo. And, it feels good. So good that you're not getting anywhere because you're stuck there. It's great. It's a great place to live in. Not effective, but very pleasant. It even can make things worse, actually, because now it can make us feel terrible in our present situation by contrast. And as a result, instead of taking action now, we are putting our attention into the future and our intention in the present, but as a way to escape, not as a motivation to go towards it. Can you see there? Yeah, it's fucked up. And again, if you've been there, and I certainly have, I have a great imagination. Welcome to being human again. Now, tunnel vision. Another main way we misalign attention and intention is when we focus so much on our outcome that we don't pay attention enough to what's happening. So if you remember from last week, tunnel vision, we narrow our attention too much. And a lot of it comes back to what I presented last week, setting flexible checkpoints for your intention. If you have fixed intention, you might fall into a tunnel vision to exclude anything that doesn't fit in. And eventually, this brings up a tendency to force things in that direction. So you don't adapt to what's there. Instead, you try to kind of force reality into your vision. We end up paying attention with a too narrowed bandwidth and being unable to adapt our action to the current situation to keep aiming to our intention. And you can think about a sailing boat that would never change course, even though when the winds and the wave conditions changes, never change course. which might be like ineffective at the best and frankly dangerous at the worst. Now, the third main way we have to misalign intention and attention is being productive over efficient. And it's when we focus so much on our present that it sets back our intention to an invisible background somewhere. We lose sight of our outcome and we get lost in the myriads of information coming at us. And again, today, in this day and age, we have a myriad of information. It can lead to procrastination and inaction. It can also lead to being super productive, but not in the direction we want. In any case, the compass we use to focus our attention is off. It is totally disconnect with our intention, and we lose sight of our priorities. So tell me, did you identify where you must have the tendency to get lost? Is it daydreaming, forced action, internal vision, productivity, or procrastination? A mix of everything? And again, if you are a human, chances are you experience all of them. And you might recognize a tendency for one more than the other. So here is a simple exploration to get us out of these traps and make sure our attention stays aligned with our intention. First, it really helps to notice what your tendency is so that you can recognize when it's happening. And that in itself often is enough to just stop it in its track. When you see it soon enough, and that takes practice. So first it will be a matter of, oops, I did it again. But instead of getting yourself, then just celebrate yourself because you caught yourself. And that's the first step towards doing something. You cannot change something that you are not even aware of. So if you're in this, oops, I did it again moment, just pause and celebrate. Yes, you saw it. You can change it now. And with practice, you see more and more in advance until the day you see it coming and it's like, not this time. Now, when you practice this, notice how your attention changes. What is usually distracting you? What is usually overwhelming you with too much information, so your attention gets just diluted or just like you cannot focus anymore? Ask yourself these two questions and observe over a few days. And take notes if you need to, because writing doesn't lie, contrary to our memory, so it's a good tool. And then you have an idea of what sets your attention off. So now comes your last bit of this exploration. It's super powerful, so simple and so powerful. Set a not to-do list. So you're listing everything that is not prioritary now and that you won't engage with now. And it might be things that are interesting in general, might be things that you want eventually to do that will be useful later, but right now it is not prioritary. This will be a distraction from your intention. List everything on that list. And now comes the magic. Your intention is showing you where to go and what to pay attention to. Your not to-do list is saying what to avoid. As long as you follow those two, you stay on track. You have no room to get lost anymore. So go ahead and answer answers to the questions for yourself. And then, come on my Facebook and Instagram page and comment on any post this week. What is the emoji for your biggest item on your not to-do list? And it might be tricky if this is social media, right? Anyway, thank you so much for being here. See you on Thursday for the usual Facebook Live where, we'll answer your questions and comments. So go ahead, Facebook, Instagram, drop a comment, and see you next week for a new podcast. That was your weekly dose of fierce love, learning self-love, and brutal honesty. Boom! Life just got more sparkly. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your presence. And if you want more, subscribe so you get your weekly dose. If you want to hop my social and start the conversation, share your thoughts and comments. I read all of them and I reply in the comments and in the Facebook Live with fierce love, of course. So stay tuned for the next episode and we will continue the series. Au revoir.